So the law is immutable. The law, we have to follow the law, and there is a law. By the way, there are laws of physics and science that have to be. And one of the laws I've repeatedly talked about here is the fact that when I designed the flyer to go out, I'm concerned that one topic is on the news, and that's was it $20 million that was moved by Governor DeSantis to Hope, an organization run by his wife. That was a 501c3, and then misappropriation and so on. That was my focus. By the way, and the focus there is because that may be grounds to bring up the marijuana issue again on the ballot to invalidate the final vote, which may cast doubt because it's even more egregious that tax money was taken to defeat Amendment 4, the abortion rights bill last time. Maybe grounds to bring that back as well. But of course, since that time, the law is that whatever we think about on Wednesday, there's so many more egregious events that take place since then. So, does anybody have a personal fear of being, and I don't know anybody's immigration status around this table, does anybody have a personal fear of being swept off the streets and sent to some jail someplace? Or
I don't think we're far off from just, if you say something they don't like.
Yeah.
Because, he wants to already send American citizens down. He doesn't see any reason why he can't send Americans down there to El Salvador.
Yeah, he used the word homegrown before. Kurt, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I was in South America, and the Army came with trucks, and I had to flee with some others. We fled on a boat. We ran down to the harbor and got on a boat and got out of Dodge. And, just to see Army trucks coming in and sweeping people off the street. That is tough. That is really tough. And anybody that resisted, they didn't resist for very long.
And what's more egregious is the fact that, the judges have been telling him, you have to get this guy back. And he's just in defiance. It's like, I am king, and what I say goes. That's the really scary stuff.
Yeah, right.
Well, look at what he's doing to Harvard.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
He wants to control what they teach, what they say, what they offer, and probably wants some of their freaking money.
And what students they admit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
They
all
won't
these
control
federal layoffs, he's selling those buildings. Those buildings are being sold. So the next person coming in that tries to, if we get another person ever, to save put the country back in working order, the buildings aren't even going to be there, okay? The physical structure, to say nothing of the loss of the brain trust.
Well, Harvard
And if
isn't-
I was a foreign student, man, I'd be booking for Canada, let me tell you.
Harvard isn't the only one. He
No.
did it to
Columbia.
Columbia.
But they caved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Harvard,
Is
thank
not.
God, so far, is not.
And some universities in California also caved, I believe.
Yeah.
As did law
firms,
It's
which
great that
is
some law firms have
disgusting.
finally stood up and shown a little spy. So are we deporting what they define as undesirables from this country to El Salvador, or are we importing Salvadorian law and sensibility, the Banana Republic, here to the United States?
We're
Are we-
deporting the South Americans, but we're going after Muslims. Those are the ones that we're pulling off the street for the demonstrating
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
And we aren't being told where those people are going. What happened to that poor woman?
She's in a facility in Louisiana.
I don't know about you, but
And she
that
said
would
that
scare the crap out of me.
The conditions are
Appalling.
unsanitary, unsafe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But why Louisiana?
Well, it's the 50th poorest state. They have
It's a federal facility, is it
Yeah,
not?
it's a federal
And
state.
the federal district judges just in Louisiana are far right. there are what, 9 circuits, 10 circuits, federal circuits, or how many?
11.
11 federal circuits. Some are more liberal, some are not. By the way, so if they send it to a prison in Massachusetts, the justices there are more liberal. But in Louisiana, the Justice Department knows that it can get a judge to side with them on the right. And so that's why Louisiana has become so popular.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's where the facility was built already, so it's there.
Yeah.
And now he's got the other dude build them in El Salvador.
but there are other federal
Yeah.
penitentiaries, correctional facilities that he could have been.
He could have sent him to
could have
Texas.
Yeah, could have sent
I mean,
him.
Texas doesn't believe in rights.
Yeah,
Well, that's
that
where
too.
they've sent quite a few of the immigrant issues, is all gone to Louisiana, partly because of the judging, yes.
Yeah, because it's picking your justice, picking your judge, and deciding who would go. So, yeah, go ahead.
I have something to say in regards to the deportations. It's been a concern of mine as well. And I'm currently organizing a rally for April 26th down in Daytona, and putting the word out locally and in groups in Daytona as well. And the key topics that I put on the flyer that I made were, number one, that we have local sheriffs in Volusia and Flagler County being trained within the department to help ICE gather people that they want to be taken away. So that's one of the concerns for the rally. Another concern I have on the flyer is that it was recently, in the last week, on the Rachel Maddow show, that Avelo Airlines has signed a contract with the current administration to help assist flying people out of our country, deporting people out of our country. That was, I took that one very personally. When I saw it, I sent it to family members, because every time that my daughter flies from Daytona to Tweed Airport in Connecticut, she flies Avelo to see her best friend who goes to Yale. What I saw on the Rachel Maddow show was that there were people in Connecticut protesting Avelo at Tweed Airport because they found out about Avelo making the contract with the current administration. So when I saw that, and it hit me very personally because we utilize that airline and I know that they fly out of Daytona. Usually we have some local rallies, but I thought it was really important to organize one like they did in Connecticut, down where Avelo flies out of in Daytona. So the topics that I put on the flyer were about our local sheriffs, about Avelo, and also the gentleman from Maryland, Garcia, who the Supreme Court has ordered to be brought back to America, and the current administration is not working on that. And there are leaders of ours who are working to bring him home, including Maxwell Frost from Orlando, the young gentleman that is a representative from Florida. He is working on it and wants to go to El Salvador to look into it further to get Garcia brought home. So that's on the flyer as well. So anybody who's available April 26th from 10 a.m. till noontime, we'll be meeting down across from the Volusia Mall near the airport, making our voices heard about all of these issues that are concerning to all of us, and notifying media sources so that it's covered by our media why we are upset about all of it.
What about the 19th?
And so the 19th is an extension of the Hands Off rally that I coordinated on April 6th locally. April 19th is a continuation of that. That's this coming Saturday. One of the leaders that I work with in Indivisible, Sandy Seitz, she has been working on that effort and is going to, head that up this weekend at 2 locations, one on Route 100 and one over by the Island Walk median. So that will be this Saturday from 11 a.m. until noontime. And so that one is in regards to the same kinds of topics from April 6th.
And that is also in support of the National 5051 group, which
Right.
is calling that a National Day of Action.
Yes,
So,
very
yes.
good point.
And so there will be cities all over the country doing the same thing.
Yes.
Also, I'd like to add a note from the Sheriff's Department, because the Sheriff's Department is expressed some concern to Jan Sullivan yesterday while I was at the office that the way we are congregated at the intersection of Palm Coast Parkway and Old Kings Road provides an easy target for a motor vehicle incident if someone chose to do such a terrible thing. But they have asked that people stay further back from the point of that median. So if we're there, we can all do that to support this, each other and the Sheriff's Department, and to spread out from that intersection all the way back towards where Walgreens is, towards the next cross street there, which I think is called Harbor Way, possibly. So they would
move
like
it
us
back a little
more
bit.
moved back and lined up, as opposed to crowded into a bunch. So we could be lining that whole time, that whole way on both sides of Palm Coast Parkway. I think we'd still be very visible to the community.
Yes.
And I think there is a safety issue there.
I will,
Have
thanks
they
for bringing
received
that up.
threats?
They didn't say that they received threats, but they.
No, on next door, there've been a lot of chaos about how we're there, and people complaining I almost hit one of them, and somebody else saying I tried to hit one of them. It's been
I've
on
heard that
other.
comment.
So
Yeah.
then that must be where that's
Yeah.
coming from. The Sheriff's Department has expressed their concern in the past about being too close to traffic. This time there was actually a concern about being a target.
Oh, wow.
So-
Okay. A group of 500 people I'm connected to, I'll make sure a message goes in that group so that those people hear what you
Yeah,
have to
just
say.
make sure that everyone is, aware that we shouldn't be on that point in a huge mass of
Yes.
people, that we should be spread out all along.
The
that
current
route.
concern I heard as well was also at Target.
Yeah.
One of the leaders in the group that I'm in was over at that location, and a sheriff came up to her and said flat out, "We need you on the side, out of the way, so that nobody's hitting you." And so I think both locations.
Both
have-
locations, absolutely, and the Target location, they're on the edge of the grass that is right there in the turning lane to go into the Target. And I've been to that location as well, and you could just see that an accident could happen there. So,
Maybe
and
not
I
an
don't
accident.
want to start a rumor that there has been a threat. Especially this is going out into the community. This is a concern, and that we need to be safe when we're out there. There's not been a threat to our knowledge.
Other than these passive kinds of threats, to the same
Yeah.
passive threat you heard,
Yeah.
I heard as well from one of my family's members' work. Someone at a family member's work actually said that comment. So it's being repeated by different people.
Yeah.
And it's
Just takes one
inappropriate.
loon. Just takes one lunatic.
You're right.
So along those lines, I had somebody approach me and asked, why aren't we growing the numbers and moving to a spot, say by City Hall where the park is, getting a permit, being there, and having the 500 plus people that were at the two locations, and bring in speakers and bring
That's
in
also
That's-
a good
and
idea.
bringing
That's a
in
great
news.
idea.
And my wife pointed out, when we looked at all of the examples of other meetings, which were amazing and phenomenal, we talked about the signs and the empowerment, it appeared that those were not really driven like we have in the past to be along the side of the road reaching out to the cars driving by, but more in a central location where we can be there as mass, bring in the news,
And all
maybe
together.
somebody fly a drone to show all the people, and then bring in speakers like maybe Floss,
Yeah.
or I would speak, or Meryl, whatever,
Yeah.
the passionate to let people know as a group that we all feel the same.
That's hard
I
because it's
don't know, I don't know if.
Well,
if-
St. Augustine is doing that.
I've
This
been
weekend,
to a lot
St.
of
Augustine
places.
is
I've been
doing
to
it.
events
But
like that.
this
Yeah.
town has no center.
They
It
do it
is
at
now.
the fort, I think.
I mean,
But
they,
when
they're
you
trying to build one in the middle of freaking nowhere.
But when you define the center, you're looking for exposure of the public driving
Right.
around.
Right.
That's not the purpose
Right.
yet. I mean, when we were doing Josh signs and Kamala signs, that was the purpose, to get people motivated to vote, get people motivated. Oh, I'm just presenting an idea
Oh, I do
idea.
think it's a good
to
idea.
grow
It's a great
and
idea.
get off the street,
Mm-hmm.
find out what it would take to get permitted to use our city property to free speech, to present our ideas, and let that area grow well beyond the limit of parking and where we are. I'm just posing that
Yeah,
because
like
I
I
want
think
to see
the
it
local
grow.
authorities would like that idea better too,
Yeah.
instead of people by
A
the
little bit more
road.
control.
that we
Well,
see.
I
That would-
think though that what Mark is talking about is more of a one-off. Not necessarily a
Well, when we
one, but
rally.
not an every time.
No, well, it depends on the purpose of what you're serving.
And in the end, the purpose could be to attract get the public, the drivers and so on. That's
So
one.
sometimes you go
And
to
it's not
county
mutually
building.
exclusive to,
No.
for example, quarterly or once every 6 months to meet outside City
Right.
Hall.
Or
In a
if
much
it's a
larger
county
with
building,
it.
we could be
There are
protesting
many,
as well.
right, there are many different places, it could be, but they're two different events, I think, I would suggest, and they have two different purposes. Both purposes are important that we can't
Right.
ignore.
I would just love
Yeah.
to have seen pictures or the news to show well over 500 people in one location with signs and speakers and people that are passionate about this kind of stuff to rally people and get them. The people are there. The people are angrier than you believe.
I'm not the only person in
Motivating
a
them.
rage.
By the way, did you see the video of, speaking of the people at Grassley's town hall meeting
Oh,
in,
sure.
in Iowa? Those in
Yeah.
the middle of the country, they're concerned about is it Abrego Garcia and the deportations. So yes, even people on the right are.
So just an idea
It's in
to
the rule of
pursue
law,
and look at.
I hope you're all calling Rick Scott on your 5 call and daring him to hold town hall. I've been calling every day and daring him to hold town
You
hall.
might
Well,
mention
tell him
the,
he can have as
you
many
might-
cops as
Fine.
Marjorie Taylor Greene did.
Yeah.
Organizers from the Indivisible groups
There
from
were about 12.
here to Jacksonville organized an empty chair town hall because they were, Rick Scott, Moody, many leaders were invited to come do a town hall and they all declined. And so we had an empty chair town hall in Jacksonville about a month ago. And so there was their empty chairs and there was their pictures and there was Kool-Aid in front of all of their faces showing
Oh,
that they
that's
drink
wonderful.
the Kool-Aid, and there was a big blow-up chicken walking around, and many people got up and spoke. I have the video of it, I could send it to you, but it's
Yeah,
very
I would
moving.
love to
Many
see
people
that.
got up to speak about their concerns and what they want to say to these representatives who won't take their
Oh, why
time and
can't-
won't take
could
their
we
phone
do that
calls.
here?
Well, we did, it was a group effort.
Here,
For-
but here in
Flagler people were invited to the Jacksonville one, so
Well,
that
but
we
regional
we
Jacksonville
filled the room
Yeah.
with concerned citizens, and I had put it out in the group of
Right.
500 people that I'm in, but my husband and I were the only two that went from our
I
area.
don't fly to Jacksonville anymore. Yeah.
So
Well, having a rally inviting Rick Scott, as you suggest, Mark, would be a good purpose.
Sure. Or
And then-
Randy,
And then
Fine,
work
but, you know,
around
they
that.
would,
they don't tend to show up though.
Well, no,
That's
but
why we
they-
do that
yeah.
empty
Not for-
chair.
not for-
No, but that would
And-
draw
Yeah.
more
Who's our
media
representative?
attention to Little Palm Cove.
Moody.
Yeah, I have a different understanding of Jacksonville.
name Moody?
They didn't decline,
She was
they didn't
the
respond at all.
lieutenant.
Yes.
And I think there's
I'm
a
sure
important
they were.
difference.
Everybody's
that
talking over each other.
I think there's an important difference if they decline. By the way, I would think that would be wonderful if they would decline. But the truth of the matter is, they do not respond at all. And you can call, and you're right, and we all need to call Rick Scott and Ashley Moody, our senators, and our representative, and so on. Do they listen? I'm becoming more and more pessimistic about the fact that they don't listen. And once again, we have 18 months till the election, till the next election, and I think in the end we need to work to elect the right people who will in fact listen to our voices and will not decline our invitations to come to be speakers.
And these rallies would be a great way to test the people who want to run.
Mm.
I'd love to hear from the people who want to run.
Yep. Well, so with the people who want to run, isn't that a self-selection? They select them. Would we select the same people? Or do we? Okay. So are candidates on our side? Well, are they born or are they made?
And supposedly they're made, but I don't know any of them. So I would like to at least start getting to know them 2 years in advance.
Yeah, I think you jumped ahead a second.
Yeah.
So if they're made, how do we make a candidate? I think we need to. How do we find and build up and work to? How do we make a candidate?
That's an excellent question. I don't have
I
an
used
answer.
to think it would be someone who had a good education so that they could understand all the stuff, or most of the stuff, and who had some sort of public service career, who then wanted to fix something important in the government. But nowadays,
Yeah.
in 18 months, I'm not sure we're going to have a country left,
Well, if we don't, the other side's preparing now. By the way, and they have PACs collecting money so that when these candidates arise, they begin on the first day that they announce. And I followed this for some candidates. They often, the Republicans always have a treasurer in Tallahassee on Monroe Street. But the first day they announce, they have $15,000 in their campaign account from the get-go. And do we have anything comparable to that? I don't think so. But how do we build a candidate?
Well, I know that one of the first jobs of the precinct captains is to meet with and all the Democrats in their precinct and start to figure out who these people are, who the people want to volunteer, who the people want to run. But after that, it's up in the air. What do you do once you find somebody?
Well, don't you, when you have a good city person, you want them to go to the county level, and then when they're in the county level, after they figure out what the hell they're doing, then you want them to go to the state level.
Where are the Democrats, though? You don't have anybody in those spots.
Well, not just that. Look at the county council we have. Would you want any of those to go on? I don't think so.
They're all Republicans.
Janko, I don't want them to go around the block.
I will, and this is a product of Jewish guilt, by the way, but I was we're guilty of the fact that there are no Democrats on. There's at least one Democrat on the board of the school board.
Yeah.
There are no Democrats on the city council of Palm Coast. No Democrats on the county commission, and I think that we have to look carefully at ourselves, and we are guilty, and we need to do penance.
Step it up. We need to step it up.
Yeah, and we need to find and build the right candidates who can run for school board and who can run for city council and who can run for county commission.
Those are the three.
But we have no
That's
idea.
a tough road to hoe.
Yeah,
It
it is.
in
By the
this
way,
climate,
it is. Yep.
you got to find somebody who's really a very strong individual.
Sacrificial lamb.
A sacrificial lamb. Somebody who's willing to go under the microscope and just
Quality candidates. And it's interesting you brought that up, Meryl, because I did get a phone call about 3 days ago, I guess, from someone within the Josh Wheel camp. And they are talking about and working on this issue. And they're talking about using a blueprint of some of the strategies they used for him to use for other candidates as well. And they are tossing out ideas and names. Who can run here? Who can run there? And the individual that was talking to me about it, I said, why don't you come to our Conversations of American Democracy group? I said, because one of our leaders is very passionate about this topic, because you brought it up before. And so I encourage this person to please come to our group, and maybe this person will sometime soon, and we can have a further discussion, and this person could fill us in more about what they're doing, because a couple of names were brought up, and this person asked me if I would run for something,
just
and I
gonna
said,
say,
not
when
only
you-
no, but hell no.
And why?
But, no, I'm not,
And
no,
why?
no, I'm overwhelmed as it is, but this person was also saying, and I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but I'm gonna say it.
Good.
I guess
Well, keep it
James
secret.
Stockton is putting his name in for something again. So I don't
Yes.
know what, but apparently the information this person said to me is that James Stockton has already put paperwork in for
I
something.
like that guy. I
And
really
I
do.
don't know what, and I don't have all the details, but that's what they talk about in this group chat of theirs,
Yeah.
of real people who just made this campaign happen. So they're talking about it, but it would be
What's
great
wrong
if
with
we were
city
involved so we
council?
can help
It-
too.
Why
If-
can't you run for city council? We're not
I
talking the
know,
federal government.
you,
How
I'll
about the
support
city
you in it.
council?
Well,
I'll
mine's-
support you in
I
it.
would go for school board.
Okay, go
I'd
do
go
it.
for
Wait,
school
okay.
Well, we got you.
Well,
We got your
but
back.
at
Kathy.
76, nobody's gonna vote for me, honey.
Hey,
I'll be
but
seven-
they just voted
seven
Sullivan
come
in his
summer.
Okay.
80s. Isn't he
Kathy,
80
that's
years old?
called a preemptive surrender.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to surrender till you're defeated. You
Right.
do it preemptively.
Right.
Donna,
Ma'am?
you
Yes.
run for something.
Absolutely not. I echo
I'm
your
happy.
sentiments. I've been approached to run for school board. I don't have the fortitude to go through something like that.
You like what you're doing,
Some of
right?
the people I worked under, I do
do
it.
what I do, and it is enough for me. And to be in a public office like that, that is just
It's raw.
not
So
my deal.
much that
Raw.
comes at you
So much
daily, and
How are your lying skills?
Yeah, really.
Unfortunately.
There's
I
a
have a problem
problem
with that. I
There
have
we
a problem
go.
with
There we
that.
go.
Well, I
We
think
did a
my mouth,
podcast on lying yesterday.
my mouth would keep
And
me
you didn't even see it. No one saw it.
out of
Well,
those.
just
Yet,
out
Yeah.
this
Yet.
week.
yet.
Before it started.
Yeah,
Just out
yeah.
this week, so.
Meryl,
Got
did
it.
we start this whole conversation today about Ron DeSantis money and the no on 3? Did we bring
was-
that up?
That was
Or-
my intent last week.
I still
Actually,
like
on
to-
Saturday, I think it's Saturday, that was my intent.
Oh, we didn't say that today?
Now,
'Cause I'm
Passover
confused
has changed the schedule. Generally, on Saturday night, and I start making a flyer or making a notice that I'll send out to everybody on Sunday. It won't happen this week either because of Passover, but beyond that, that's generally the schedule. So we decide on a topic on Saturday night, Sunday morning, and of course, by the time Wednesday rolls around,
So much has happened.
Yeah.
who knows who's deported or who knows who's gone to war with whom or so
I
on.
didn't know if we
So that's
talked
why.
about it yet today.
We have not talked about
Okay.
it, and I don't know that we will, but because particularly we have here a microcosm of exactly why we're failing, because there are good candidates sitting around this table, and nobody wants to stick their neck out, roll up their sleeves, break a sweat, and say, yes, I will be a candidate.
How about you?
Yeah, and I've been asked around the table, and I've got a wife I've got to take care of, and so on. However, I have promised that if nobody else, I'm in school board District 1. I don't know what you got, and if nobody else opposes, it is thought that Bars, who the governor appointed, who lost to Kathy Duffy, and not Kathy, that's you,
Kathy Duffy.
Rudy.
That was the fastest.
Who lost to Rudy. He lost, and then the governor appointed him to District 1. He doesn't live. He's like the others in this community in the red zone. Don't live in the community, but he bought something in Flagler Beach. But he would have to now buy something, and apparently he's thinking of doing it, buying something in District 1. And he is one person who, Dave Camarca is not here, but at a forum, Dave and I were there. Dave asked if there are to be chaplains in the public schools. Would someone from his Temple of Satan be allowed to be a chaplain? And Barr said, no, absolutely not. He was against it. That is, he was going to decide what was a legitimate representative of the faith, not anybody else. And so I will be happy to run against him if nobody else will, and if he's in District 1.
Well, if you
Okay?
do that, we'll all be behind you.
And by the way, I would say, even everyone said the rigors of a campaign and so on, we do ourselves great damage by sending people to the polls to look at a ballot that has a Republican name on one side and nobody on the other side. Okay, so when you say you don't want to run, how about if we just use your name?
Yeah.
Just so it appears on the other side, so it looks like there's life in the.
We'll use Kathy.
I really would
Yeah,
run,
okay,
but
okay.
I'm in dialysis 3 days a week.
And
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's not real. You know,
while I was waiting for my wife when they out walks Kathy, I said, I had no idea, and so on. So it's funny when you meet at dialysis.
Yeah.
But those are excuses are a dime a dozen. And they, again, often constitute preemptive surrender. We have decided we can't win, even before we go registered to be on the ballot. And we've got to stop that.
On a positive note,
And Kathy,
we got Jan's email this morning, and she mentioned that Josh Wheel and Randy Fine, they were pretty neck and neck. I mean, 32%, 35%, something like that. And Josh, the amount of votes that Josh got were more than all the Democrats that we got out to vote. So not only did we get those Democrats out, but he won he lost by an even larger majority, which are NPs and some probably some Republicans. So we've been able to peel people off up until now. We're peeling people off on a daily basis.
I think
that is a positive note.
I would suggest that one of the battles we need to fight is against the idea that we lost with Josh Wheel. Okay? I think we did very well with Josh Wheel, and if we continue the trend, we went from a 30% Republican, what Trump won our district by 30%. Now Wheel lost by 15%. If we can cut that in half again and approach, we can perhaps make a change here.
Back in 1998 and 2002, I ran for the county commission.
oh, okay.
Back in 1999, I ran for the council when we became a city. Great experience. It was fabulous. So, yeah, you work hard, and there's a little bit of frustrations when people call you up, and but it was a great experience in my life. I lost each one of them by under 1 point.
Oh,
Would you run again?
Under 1
So,
point.
yeah, we got you on the list.
really?
My wife would kill me. But I want to say that it was a great experience.
What was she vote?
Unfortunately, I lost because
Let's hope.
we had, at that time, we had an equal amount of registered Republicans and equal amount of Democrats.
Yeah.
That was equal?
It was,
Yeah, I think
back in
yes,
those days, it was
absolutely.
equal.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was
Even
equal amount.
2006, it was pretty much.
Unfortunately, I started with a deficit of 1,800 Democrats who didn't come to the
Good old
polls and
days.
vote.
Wow,
And if I would have had another 400, I would have won.
wow.
But I started off with 1,800 Democrats who didn't even come out to vote. And the Republicans had money. Campbell was my opponent both those times. And he had the developers, and he had a lot of money. But it was a great experience. Met a lot of wonderful people. It was an experience being on radio and being on Daytona TV, and so
Consider it again.
anyone that's afraid, it's a great experience. It'll be a great experience. Unfortunately, again, Democrats don't come out to vote. And
Yes.
I think a lot of us would have won, including Josh.
Yeah, if we had more, if too many Democrats sit out. We're heading towards a time when we need to wind up, but so as sort of the leader, I'm uncomfortable being a leader of this. However, I'm assigning homework. First of all, you give us, please, the names of the people who we should invite to be around this table, and we'll make personal invitations, and maybe a bunch of us will issue personal invitations. And secondly, I'm assigning you an essay. Why I enjoyed running for office, because we need to share that with other people and say, it looks daunting from,
That's a great idea.
however, in the end, it's a very worthwhile and
But it's also a
self-affirming.
very different political environment.
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
that's
that's point.
Very
But
good.
you know,
Very
when,
good.
when you went out and canvassed for Josh, most of the people, it was a really good experience.
Yes, I agree.
It really was.
So tell us, how is a different environment?
Polemic, and I think there's a lot of anger and non-civil. It's not as civil as it was
So
20 years ago.
why does that not stop Republicans from running, but it does stop
their
Democrats
power.
from running?
I think
That's
that's
their
their
power.
power. They rise, that rises, they're constantly angry.
Yeah.
Right.
Even in their like social, the ones that I know.
That's why.
And it's a chronic kind of drive that they've got that's, I think, infiltrated everybody in that party. And the Democrats just don't have that.
Yes, they
That's
do.
the one thing with, well,
Not all.
maybe we're
That's why
getting it,
Kathy should
but
run.
I find the Democrats to be more laid back, more, thoughtful, introspective, more listeners, and we don't get each other really, really riled up enough. And maybe this whole climate right now is what it's gonna take to get people out to vote. Maybe we're finally gonna hit that anger chord in people and that fear chord in people a little
Well,
more.
a lot of that has to do with the media, whipping up that fear.
Yeah.
Like it's, like fear sells, fear gives numbers.
Right.
And that's every day they turn on one specific channel and that channel just whips up this fear and
Just look at-
anger and
Look
crazy.
at Rachel Maddow's
Lie.
delivery. She's
Yeah.
so calm.
Maybe some
and-
lies.
Yes.
But she's
Well,
pissed.
it's what-
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
But she's
Yeah.
really calm and smart.
And we worry about having, candidates
Pushy.
with a stainless steel background. We have a fucking felon
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
highest office of this
Twice-
country
Liable
twice-
who
rapist.
wants to
twice in-
deport Americans.
And all the MAGA voters
But-
are proud of that.
I'll tell you
They
what.
They fall in line, but
I'll
we eat
tell you-
our own.
Yeah.
Let Donna-
Yeah.
I just
Let
wonder,
Donna say, and then I wanna-
as far as getting people to run, like we're talking about, say in our local area, which is so red and we are so outnumbered. Do the Republicans have similar issues in areas that are so very blue? Like does Cambridge, Massachusetts very often have a Republican running seriously? I don't know, I'm just posing the question
Yeah.
because I know it's hard to get
I
candidates
have a friend who
here.
lives in Westchester County, New York, which is
Yeah.
a liberal
Blue-
bubble,
blue-
right?
right.
And even up there, they're kind of, the Democrats up there are more like aghast about it. It's almost like they want to shame the Republicans into like being decent people, you know what I mean? But,
Is
and
it-
even when
it
there's like
doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
So is it fair to characterize the Republicans as bullies? And
Yes.
therefore, how do you combat a bully? This is
You
Right.
go
Well,
back
they're
in their
cowards.
face. That's what you
Well,
do.
okay,
You
so
they're
stand
are
up to them.
Kathy, you look angry enough to run for office.
Yes.
Yeah, we need you, Kathy.
And so, and I would agree, we need to fight back, to
Yeah.
smack them in the face.
No, punch him in the throat.
And punch them in the throat. We can just.
I don't think, I keep reading that, there's like a certain percentage, like 35% of Republicans that will never turn on him. So you only need to target the 3.5% who are candidates for changing their mind. And that approach doesn't work with those 3.5%. I mean, you really have to figure out what's the target, how can we change them, and what approach works with them. And I come from a red state. Oklahoma is red as you can get. And
Where?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Oh.
Can you say that without singing?
Yeah.
And I have a lot of experience with Trump supporters. So I think if we just target the 3.5% to 5% and do whatever works with them, which is not crucify them, that we're much better off.
Go ahead.
Is the mob really in Tulsa?
Yeah.
No, but the Klan is, right?
The Klan.
Flowers of the
Klan-
Killer.
Klan.
See
Yeah.
it? Have you seen that? Has anybody seen that movie?
Yes,
Yeah.
you sent me to watch it, yeah.
But,
read the book.
but to your point, what works? What is going to work? Because I had false hope in this last year with the Lincoln Project. I was thinking, yes, and there was another page that I belonged to, Republicans Against Trumpism or something like that. And it was a few leaders, and they toured the country, and they were on news programs, and the Lincoln Project had a lot of visibility, and I just thought, oh, with this small percentage that they're going to bring in, and people waking up, and Trump is a liable rapist and a convicted felon, and he's not going to win. And with this small percentage that you're talking about coming on board, it didn't happen.
Yeah,
and so where are they? They didn't even move the needle, and they're a national program working so hard on it, and they didn't even move the needle. So then what? So how? I was counting on these people to help make the needle move a smidge, and it didn't.
Does anybody know the name Thomas Nast?
No.
By the way, it was it immediately before or after the Civil War? The cartoonist who assigned Republicans an elephant and the Democrats a donkey. And he was a proponent of the use of ridicule.
Yes.
And I
It
think,
works.
I think as Sue has said, we're too polite.
Yeah.
We don't use ridicule. We don't
remember I
use
said
ridicule.
that
And we need to, on a local level, we need to
after they escorted that man who yelled at Trump in his State of the Non-Union there about Medicaid, to keep his hands off of Medicaid, and it took 4 to 6 people to escort this 80-some-year-old man
with
off
canes,
the floor. And then the president said, the next thing out of his mouth was, I have restored freedom of speech to this country. The Republicans should have laughed their ass off. They should have pointed to him and started laughing. Because ridicule works.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We tried the word weird, but it didn't.
It wasn't strong enough.
Or did we give up too early? I wonder about that, but yeah.
And the Republicans fall in line, whether you are a felon, whether you are a rapist, if you've been accused of rape, they all fall in line. What do? We eat our own. We beat up on our own. If someone does a small little thing.
Trump makes up
Al Franken.
Al Franken's a
nasty
little
names
for
for
president.
every other person.
Right.
And those nasty little, that's a form of bullying.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
It's
And
horrible.
I would, what I'd like us to raise money and buy one of those great big balloons of him in a diaper that they had over in London, and I know it was in New York.
You want that here?
I want that here. I want that
Flying from our houses.
for all the
Kathy's.
for all the rallies that we have. It would be wonderful.
Can I just say one thing that I hear from my acquaintances, friends, that are Trumpers in that part of the country? They feel heard for the first time in their lives.
Right.
Yeah.
And he gives them a voice. And that is
What?
Right. And that's a drug.
Don't be logical now.
That's a drug. Attention is a drug.
Yes. Yeah.
And he takes the hits for them.
He does.
They look
Right.
at him and they go, "Oh, I'm just like him."
And
And look at how tough he is. He's up there going, "Come on,
I am your
bring it,"
retribution. Yeah. Yeah.
He raises their emotion.
What he needs is a woman to come and cut it off now.
Some
you
say,
Like Lorena Bobbitt.
She had your Wheaties in there for you.
Lorena Bobbitt.
on that note,
Nice.
we will continue this discussion next week around this very same table. And yes, it shouldn't. It seems like it shouldn't take too long for us to grow, so that we can find another room and continue to expand and bring more people to this table. But we need to recognize those people who are at this table. And thank you very much for participating, and thank the Rotondos for turning this into a what is it called? The vidcast, and we're grateful to everyone. Thank you very much.
There's an excellent book. You could probably pick it up at a dollar store now. That's how old it is. Joe Lieberman. It's called in praise of public service.
Yeah.
That was my Bible when I was running.
That's good. You sure it wasn't printed in China?